Good morning, it's September 22nd. This is To My Liberal Friends. Are we ready to finally adopt some age limits for serving in Congress and the presidency? Will the voting public now demand that aging politicians go home in retirement gracefully? I cannot remember a time when age has been such a big issue, but as we head into the 2024 elections, the age of Joe Biden, as well as some other politicians, including Donald Trump, is starting to become more and more of an issue. Now, I can remember when it was an issue with Ronald Reagan, and in his second term, he started to decline mentally. Well, Joe Biden continues to make gaffes that expose his age and call into question his mental acuity. On Wednesday, he made some confusing comments at a fundraiser where he repeated the same story twice in a matter of minutes. This was not reported by some conservative reporter, but rather by Jonathan Lemire, who reports for Politico, a media outlet that definitely trends to the liberal side of the equation. According to Lemire, he reported that Biden talked about starting his campaign. And quoting Lemire, he said he told the story about the events of Charlottesville in 2017 as the reason for his campaign. A few minutes later, he told the story again, nearly word for word, end quote. It was not a story that was new to Joe Biden. He's repeated this story on multiple occasions using the exact same words that he's memorized, but this is the first time he's repeated the story in the same event and just a few minutes apart. I would suggest to you this is a sign of early onset dementia. We all know that Biden is prone to tell stories from his past that are false, but the problem is he believes them and continues to tell them, again, a sign of onset dementia. And the evidence is piling up that the Democrats are getting nervous. In public, they're reluctant to call out Biden, but in private, they're all worried that his age may in fact become a major liability as he continues to make gaffes that only highlight his advanced age. An Associated Press NORC poll last month found that 77% of Americans say Biden is too old for a second term. While an unsurprising 89% of Republicans expressed the sentiment, 69% of Democrats also say Biden is no longer up to the task, and that's according to the NBC poll. Biden continues to rely on the liberal media to defend and prop him up. Two of the more liberal media mavens are MSNBC's Joe Scarborough and his wife Mika Brzezinski, and they keep making excuses for Biden and at times blame his staff and handlers, including the Secret Service, for not being there to support and protect him. Brzezinski made some comments that went viral last year. She said, and I quote, "If you're managing a president's schedule and you're managing a president getting on a stage and getting off stage and getting on planes and getting off planes, and yes, he's 80, you need to be there for him and you need to make a pathway. And you sure as hell better make sure he doesn't fall in a sandbag. So do a better job, because you can't have these video images of the president tripping or the president like going the wrong way. It's not going to work in this presidency because his age is going to be a factor. His age is going to be a factor, and it's your job to make sure he gets from one place to another," end quote. Now, if you listen to that comment, do you think this is an unbiased journalist reporting on the presidency, or someone in the media who's become a cheerleader for the left and will defend and excuse any faux pas that Biden makes? And she's not the only one in the media who either ignores these events or makes some feeble excuse for Biden. When Joe Biden first started his campaign in 2020, he tried to portray himself as someone that would usher in the next generation. In March of that year at a rally in Detroit, flanked by Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and a pair of his former rivals in the primaries, now Vice President Kamala Harris and Senator Cory Booker, Biden said, quote, "Look, I see myself as a bridge, not anything else," end quote. And he highlighted that thought again shortly after when during an online fundraiser, Biden said, "I view myself as a transition candidate." Well, Americans are plainly impatient for Biden to retire already, a point hammered home by the preponderance of poll respondents, including Democrats and independents, who say Biden should not be seeking a second term. They would begin after his 82nd birthday. That means he would be 86 at the end of that term. Elected Democrats, operatives, and donors keep saying the same in private, while an array of op-ed and cable kibitzers have exhaled a steady barrage on this subject. And before the Democrats listening to this jump out of their seats, I would state unequivocally that I think Trump is too old as well. If he were to be elected again, he would be into his 80s during that term. Mitt Romney announced he would not run for a second Senate term. In his announcement, he mentioned that he would be in his 80s in another term, and then took a shot at both Biden and Trump, citing their age. But both of them seem to think only their own egos and not the nation's, so on they march in their quest for personal gratification. And as I said last week, there's no indication that Joe Biden will step aside, and the deadline for filing to be on the ballot in multiple states are fast approaching. That means the only way the Democrats can remove Biden would be having him withdraw prior to the convention, and that would create a lot of chaos. But knowing Joe Biden, and I knew him fairly well when he was serving in the Senate, his personal ego will not allow him to withdraw on his own. Democrats would have to force him out, and that would get very messy. It's been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe or recommend it to your friends. And if you have a comment, go ahead and leave it.